This week on Stubborn Grit.
So to adjust it, I can move this up. The plan for on top for the curing is a wet cure.
His wife and he are building a house together. Sweat equity. It's like a marriage workshop. Build the dream. How hard can it be? How long will it take? They don't have a clue. They're doing it themselves. Ignorance is bliss. Will they survive? Will their teenagers thrive? What's wrong with you people? Are they crazy? Maybe. Dream big. Don't quit. Stubborn grit.
These are all the brackets. I just read where some of that rust and such will actually help them adhere to the concrete. This number 5 bar is 18 inches of development from here to here. And then we have about a few inches clear at the bottom and the sides. These are designed to be wet set, although it's no longer code where we live to wet set anchor bolts. And if you research that a little bit, I think it has a lot to do with if the concrete's not fresh, you can create voids by pushing the aggregate, and you're pushing those bars, I guess. So I'm thinking about actually installing these on the sides. Maybe I'll have them raised up a little bit so they can finish underneath them and then push them down. So to adjust it, I can move this up. As I move this board up, it's loose. It'll move this closer to the form. If I push it down, it moves it further out. Now I just have to figure out how to raise and lower it, because obviously the base has to be down flush with the top of the form. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. When I drove this stake in for my experiment of how to suspend these brackets that are actually designed to be wet set, it pushed out the form board, so I'm probably going to pull this out, and I'm probably going to end up just wet setting all these. I'm not exactly sure the exact plan yet, but I think they call it a bagging your slab or bagging your foundation. You're basically wrapping the whole thing in plastic. The plan for on top for the curing is a wet cure. We're going to use, it's a burlap with poly plastic mixed in, and we'll keep that wet for, they say 7 to 10 days. It's nice. And we're not really in a rush to take off the forms.
And I'm thinking it's going to be better to just leave them in place as long as possible. We still need to order all our framing materials, and we'll try to source as much of that locally as we can, which should save us on shipping. We did inherit some tools from my wife's dad that we've been using, and we're also researching a lot of other tools that we'll be needing as well. But trying to find quality tools is difficult. They don't make them like they used to, definitely rings true. I'm thinking we might amend the bottom of these perimeter footings with some of our leftover stone and mason sand. Work it down into the clay soil, but not sure if that's a good idea or not. Ever so often I'll poke and prod the bottom of the footing. I'll try to talk more about that in the next video. So all our interior footings are looking good, still blowing out the leaves every day or so. This one here is a bit more fine-tuned as far as the sloped edges. We might clean the others up a bit more as well. I figure if we can get the foundation right, then as we build upwards, everything else should be a lot less complicated.
Our concrete is going to be finished floor, so my heaviest loads will be on these interior pad footers. So I'm trying to transition from the footer itself that's thicker to the slab, which will be thinner. There's many variables. This concrete stuff, it's an art and science to it. I've learned a whole lot just getting to this point. Different parts of the country do things different ways, but you got to consider what they have locally, what materials they have locally, how crews work around here, what they're used to working with.
I mean, it's easy to dream up all kinds of ideas, and early on in my research I was finding a lot of great methods, materials, and cool tools. It's best to start with context. It can end up costing us more than it's worth. Or worse, it might not even work, especially in our particular area. It's kind of funny how people will argue this stuff online before anyone realizes they're in different parts of the world, with different codes, methods, materials, and so on. So ever since our DIY plans were approved, We started calling around trying to get estimates on our list of materials. Being a DIY project, they don't always call you back, which is not surprising. Researching and learning is critical, especially with little to no experience. But sometimes I end up chasing problems that never actually show up by the time I get started. I'm finding that it helps to sometimes just get out there and keep moving forward, to avoid analysis paralysis when doing research, also known as going down the rabbit hole. I did experience a lot of that when drawing up the plans. We didn't know how much detail was required for approval. I finally realized I didn't need to know every single detail, and it's okay, if not common, for plans to change along the way. They really only wanted to see the big details related to the general layout, the foundation, and framing. Not so much about where we place the plumbing and electrical. Everything is still required to meet code and it will be inspected, but a lot of it can be fleshed out on the job. So we didn't need all that spelled out in the plans to get the approval stamp to proceed. Anyway, on concrete pour day, they usually fill all the footings first and then come back to fill across the slab last. It's less likely to blow out the forms this way, but I'm planning to have it placed from one side all the way across to the other side, including both the footings and the slab at the same time. Otherwise, cold joints are more of a risk when placing concrete on top of concrete at different times. The different layers might not blend together, resulting in a weak seam. Hopefully we can avoid this. Since we can't get the concrete trucks on more than one side of our build site due to septic tanks and other obstacles, we're going to pay for a concrete pump truck with a boom. This will also speed up the placement of the concrete and further help us avoid cold joints as well. So my backup plan for any potential cold joints, if something were to go wrong, is to bend the ends of the rebar from the top mat down into the footings from above. That should help tie it all together. There's our little sump pump with a float switch. We plan to place that in the perimeter footing on the low end, and hopefully it'll pump out most of the water. We'll likely use our shop vac for all the interior footings. I finally confirmed that a gradual slope and a continuous footing is okay, so no need to dig deeper anywhere. Turns out there are several options for dealing with different footing elevations. Like a step-down footing is a common solution. But in our case, our slope is negligible, so we're good to go as far as our footing depths. So no need to dig deeper anywhere. So yeah, next we'll be out here to remeasure the soil bearing capacity and talk more about all that.